Ju Kim walked through the wide hallways of the Galactic Military Academy with her head high. The blue lights from the ceiling made her black uniform look darker than it was. She was one of only 5 humans in the whole academy, and the only female human in her class. Tall alien students moved past her. Most of them were Taurians, tall beings with gray skin and 4 eyes that could see in many directions at once. They didn't look at her as she passed, or if they did, it was with 4 eyes full of doubt. "Human female," one of them said as she walked by. "I wonder how she even passed the entry test." Ju heard this, but she did not look back. She was used to it by now. 6 months at the academy had taught her that showing anger only made things worse. She entered the strategy hall and took her seat at the back. The room was shaped like a bowl, with seats going down to a round stage in the middle. On the stage was a big 3D map of the star system. Professor Tadwan stood by the map. He was the only Korean teacher at the academy, but he rarely spoke to the human students. He preferred to fit in with the alien teachers. "Today we will study the Battle of Proxima Centauri," he said. "Who can tell me why the Meridian fleet lost to a much smaller human force?" A Taurian student raised his hand. "Because they got lucky. Humans have no real understanding of space battle strategy." Several aliens nodded. Ju bit her lip but said nothing. "Not quite," said Professor Tadwan. "Anyone else?" Ju raised her hand slowly. The room went quiet. "Yes, Cadet Kim. The Meridian fleet used standard attack patterns. They expected humans to do the same. But humans don't think that way. The human fleet split into small groups and attacked from 12 different angles at once. The Meridians couldn't track so many small targets moving in unpredictable ways." The room was silent. Professor Tadwan looked surprised. "That is correct," he said. "The human fleet used what we now call distributed chaos theory. It is rarely taught at this level." A Taurian student turned all 4 eyes to stare at Ju. "She probably just memorized it," he whispered to his friend, but loud enough for her to hear. When class ended, Ju gathered her things quickly. As she left the room, she almost bumped into Commander Dahyun Park. He was the highest-ranking human at the academy. "Cadet Kim," he said with a small nod. "Good answer in class today." "Thank you, sir," she replied, surprised that he knew about it already. He looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Your test scores in strategic theory are the highest I've seen in years, from any species." She didn't know what to say. "Don't let them convince you that humans can't think in 3 dimensions, he said quietly. "Our brains evolved to track moving targets in trees and grasslands. We're better at seeing patterns than they think." "Is that why you requested me for the academy, sir?" she asked. He looked surprised. "I didn't request you, Cadet. Your scores did that. But I've been watching your progress." He paused. "The war games are next month. Be ready to show what you can do." Before she could ask what he meant, he walked away. That night, in her small room, Ju opened her personal computer. On it were thousands of battle simulations she had created. Some were based on Earth history, ancient battles fought by generals like Sun Tzu and Napoleon. Others were from the newer space battles humans had fought. She ran a new simulation, watching as small blue dots moved against bigger red ones. The blue dots seemed to move without pattern, but there was a purpose to their chaos. "They think humans can't plan," she said to herself. "I'll show them what plans really look like." The day of the war games arrived. Hundreds of students filled the main hall of the Galactic Military Academy. The air felt heavy with excitement and tension. Director Huk stood on a raised platform. He was an older Korean man with gray hair and a stern face. "Today you will be divided into teams by random selection. Each ship will have a captain, weapons officer, engineer, and tactical officer." Ju stood among the crowd, her heart beating fast. A large screen lit up, showing team assignments. She found her name listed as tactical officer on Ship 7. Her captain would be Mungai, one of the top Taurian students. She walked to the simulation pod where her team waited. Mungai looked at her with all 4 of his eyes. "You're my tactical officer?" he asked, his voice full of doubt. "Yes, sir," Ju answered, keeping her voice steady. "Just monitor the sensors and stay quiet," Mungai said. "I'll handle the real tactics." The other two team members, both Taurians, laughed. Ju took her seat at the tactical station without a word. The simulation began. Their ship appeared in a virtual space battle arena with 9 other ships. The inside of the pod looked just like a real ship bridge, with screens showing the space around them. "First target is Ship 3, Mungai ordered. Standard attack pattern." Ju watched her screens carefully. Ship 3 was moving in a way that seemed random, but she noticed a pattern. "Sir, I suggest we—" "I did not ask for suggestions," Mungai cut her off. Their ship moved forward, firing weapons. Ship 3 dodged easily and fired back. Alarms blared as their shields dropped. "Damage to engine section," reported the engineer. "Shields at 40%. 2 more enemy ships appeared from behind an asteroid. They were surrounded. "Keep firing," Mungai ordered, but his voice shook slightly. Ju saw a way out. "Captain, if we vent plasma from the damaged engine and fire at it, we can create a blind spot." "That makes no sense," Mungai said. "Be quiet and follow orders." Another hit rocked their ship. "Shields at 15%, the engineer shouted. While Mungai argued with the weapons officer, Ju quietly entered commands into her console. She set the damaged engine to vent plasma in a specific pattern, creating a cloud behind them. "What's happening?" Mungai demanded when he noticed the plasma cloud. "Engine malfunction," Ju lied. "But we can use it. If we fire at the plasma cloud, it will create an explosion that will hide us and damage the enemy ships." "That will never," Mungai started. "Shields at 5%, the engineer shouted. "One more hit, and we're out." "Do it," Mungai said to Ju, clearly out of ideas. Ju fired a single shot into the plasma cloud. It exploded brilliantly, temporarily blinding the sensors of the enemy ships. At the same moment, she entered new coordinates, moving their ship in a tight spiral that no Taurian would have attempted. "What are you doing?" Mungai asked, grabbing his seat as the simulation pod tilted sharply. "Using gravity from the nearby moon to slingshot us," Ju explained simply, her fingers flying over the controls. Now we're behind them. Before the enemy ships could turn around, Ju had targeted their weak spots, places where their shields didn't overlap properly, a pattern only a human would notice. "Fire," she said. The weapons officer looked at Mungai, who nodded reluctantly. They fired. All 3 enemy ships showed damage. "Again," Ju said. "Same targets." The second volley disabled 2 enemy ships completely. The third tried to escape but was too slow. The simulation ended. A green light flashed, showing they had won the round. When they stepped out of the pod, other students stared at them in surprise. No one had expected Ship 7 to win its first battle. Commander Dahyun stood nearby, watching. He caught Juwoo's eye and gave her a small nod. Mungai said nothing to Juwoo as they left the simulation area, but she heard him talking to another Taurian student. "The human got lucky," he said. "That's all." Juwoo smiled to herself. Luck had nothing to do with it. And this was just the beginning. Word of Juwoo's tactics spread quickly through the academy. Students whispered in hallways when she passed. Some looked at her with new respect, others with deeper suspicion. 3 days after the war games, Juwoo received a message on her computer. It was from Director Cook's office, asking her to come at once. Her stomach felt tight as she walked to the director's office. Had she broken rules by taking control during the simulation? Would she be punished? The door slid open. Director Cook sat behind a large desk made of dark wood. Beside him stood a tall Taurian with badges showing high rank. His name tag read, Senior Instructor Do-Yoon. "Cadet Kim, please sit," Director Huck said, pointing to a chair. Juwoo sat with her back straight, hands on her knees. "Your performance in the war games was unusual." Director Huck said. He didn't sound angry, just curious. Thank you, sir, Ju said, not sure if it was a compliment. I've reviewed the simulation data, he continued. You use tactics that are not taught at the academy. I studied extra materials on my own time. Sir. Do-Yoon stepped forward. All four of his eyes focused on her. Humans do not have the mental capacity for advanced spatial warfare. Your success must have been luck. Ju kept her face calm, though her hands tightened on her knees. With respect, sir, I don't believe in luck in battle. Director Hyuk almost smiled. Neither do I, cadet. He pressed a button on his desk, and a hologram appeared showing the upcoming intergalactic strategy tournament. The tournament begins in 2 months, he said. Teams from 20 different academies will compete. I am appointing you to lead the tactical division of our team. Ju couldn't hide her surprise. Sir. Do-Yoon made a sharp sound. Director, this is unprecedented. A first-year cadet. A human female. Our reputation will suffer before we even begin. Our reputation will suffer more if we ignore talent. Director Huck replied firmly. Do-Yoon's gray skin darkened with anger. Then she must prove herself first. Let her pass the qualification tests that our senior cadets take. Those tests are designed for students with 3 years of training. Director Huck said. Exactly. Do-Yoon's mouth formed what might have been a smile. If she is as talented as you believe, it should be no problem. Director Huck looked at Ju. Cadet Kim, the choice is yours. Ju thought about saying no. The tests were famous for being extremely difficult. But she also thought about all the times she had been told humans couldn't understand space strategy. I'll take the tests, sir, she said. Do-Yoon looked surprised, then pleased. Very well. 3 tests, starting tomorrow. After Ju left the office, she found Commander Da-Hyun waiting in the hallway. Walk with me, cadet, he said. They walked in silence until they reached a quiet garden area. Artificial light made the plants look almost like they were on Earth. You're taking the qualification tests, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. Do you know what they involve? Some idea, sir. Commander Da-Hyun sighed. The first test is standard, tactical problems to solve. The second is a neural interface simulation that tests reaction time. The third, he paused. The third is designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in human spatial thinking. So they're trying to make me fail, Ju said. Yes, Do-Yoon has never had a human in his advanced classes. He wants to keep it that way. Ju looked at the strange plants around them. Why are you telling me this, sir? Because the academy needs to change, he said. And you might be the one to change it. That night, Ju couldn't sleep. She sat at her computer, studying every test record she could find. The qualification tests had been given for over 50 years. No human had ever passed all 3. First time for everything, she whispered to herself, and kept working until morning. Ju passed the first test easily. It contained tactical problems she had studied many times before. Do-Yoon looked surprised when she finished in half the allowed time. The second test was harder. She had to wear a neural interface helmet that connected to her brain. The test showed fast-moving objects in 3 dimensions, and she had to predict their paths. By the end, her head hurt badly, but she passed with a score just above the minimum. The third test is tomorrow, Commander Da-Hyun told her that evening. No one would blame you if you withdrew now. I would blame myself, Ju replied. That night, instead of studying more, Ju did something different. She researched Taurian biology and psychology. She read about how their 4 eyes saw the world, how their brains processed information. And she found something interesting. The next morning, Do-Yoon himself administered the third test. This is the Spatial Complexity Challenge, he explained with a slight smile. It was developed by our greatest Taurian strategists. The test room had a large 3D projection in the center. It showed a space battle with hundreds of ships moving in complex patterns. You must predict the outcome of this battle, Du Yun said, "You have 2 hours." As soon as the test began, Ju understood why humans always failed. The movements were too complex, too fast, going in too many directions at once. No human brain could track it all. But she didn't try to track everything. Instead, she focused on what she had learned about Taurians. Taurians saw patterns very well, but they had a blind spot. They couldn't easily see what wasn't there. Humans, who had evolved as hunters, were good at noticing what was missing. Ju ignored the hundreds of moving ships and looked for gaps in the pattern. She found them quickly. The Taurian designers had hidden the key to the battle in what wasn't happening, not what was. When time was up, Du Yun returned. "Your answer." "The Blue Fleet will win," Ju said, "because they've hidden 20 ships in the sensor shadow of the gas giant." Du Yun's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "That's correct. How did you see that?" "I didn't try to see everything," Ju explained. "I looked for what was missing." News of Ju passing all 3 tests spread quickly. That afternoon, Director Hyuk officially named her tactical leader for the tournament team. Now she needed to build her crew. The next day, Ju sat in the academy cafeteria, eating alone as usual. A human student approached her table. He was tall and thin with glasses and messy hair. "Hello," he said nervously. "I'm Jinho. I'm an engineer. I heard you need people for your team." "Are you good?" Ju asked directly. Jinho nodded. "Best in my class, but socially awkward, so no one picks me for teams." "I don't care about social skills. I care about talent," Ju said. "You're in." Jinho smiled and sat down. Soon after, 2 more students approached. One was a Meridian with silver skin that seemed to glow. The other was a Vortian, a species known for their communication skills. "I am He Newell," said the Meridian, "physics specialist." "And I am Jai Yun," said the Vortian. "Communications. Why do you want to join my team?" Ju asked. "Most non-humans avoid working with humans." "Because you think differently," He Newell replied. "And different thinking wins battles." "And because you beat Du Yun at his own game," Jai Yun added with a smile. That took courage. By the end of the day, Ju had her core team. They were outcasts in different ways. A socially awkward human engineer, a Meridian physicist who asked too many questions, and a Vortian communicator who spoke too directly. Perfect, Ju thought. They would create a new way of thinking that combined the best of all their species. "We start training tomorrow," she told them. "The tournament begins in 7 weeks. We have a lot to learn from each other." The Intergalactic Strategy Tournament was held on a giant space station near the center of the galaxy. 20 teams from the best military academies arrived in their school ships. Ju and her team stood at the viewing window as they approached the station. It looked like a giant metal flower with 5 huge petals stretching out from the center. "It's beautiful," said Jinho, his eyes wide behind his glasses. "And scary," added Jai Yun, the Vortian. "The Accioni team has won 3 years in a row. They're waiting for us." Ju nodded. "We've studied their tactics. They're good, but they always follow the same patterns. That's their weakness." For 7 weeks, Ju had trained her team differently than any other team in Academy history. Instead of practicing standard moves, they studied each other's ways of thinking. Jai Yun taught them Vortian communication methods. He Newell showed them Meridian physics tricks. Jinho shared human engineering shortcuts. Ju combined it all into a new kind of strategy. The next morning, the tournament began. The first rounds were simple. Ju's team won their first 2 matches easily against weaker teams. "Too easy," He Newell said after their second win. "The real test comes tomorrow." Tomorrow, they would face the Accioni team. The Accioni were a warrior species known for their perfect discipline and fearsome reputation. Their team had 8 members, all tall with dark red skin and black eyes. They had never lost a match. That night, Ju couldn't sleep. She got up and walked to the station's observation deck. The view of the galaxy spread out before her, millions of stars shining. "Impressive, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. She turned to see Commander Dahyun. "Sir, I didn't know you were on the station." "I came to watch," he said, standing beside her. "Your team has surprised everyone so far." "Tomorrow will be harder," Ju said. "The Accioni are tough," he agreed, "but they have a flaw." "What's that?" "They don't understand chaos. Their society values perfect order. They can't handle the unexpected." Ju smiled slowly. "That's exactly what we've been preparing for." The next day, hundreds of spectators filled the viewing area around the simulation chamber. Screens showed the inside of both teams' ships. The Accioni team sat in perfect formation, each at their station, back straight. Juwoo's team looked messy by comparison. Jin-Ho was adjusting his glasses. Hae-Newell was bouncing slightly in his seat. Jae-Yun was humming quietly. "They look disorganized," someone in the crowd said. "They'll be crushed," another replied. The simulation began. Both ships appeared in a virtual asteroid field. The Accioni ship moved forward in a perfect, straight line, clearing asteroids with precise shots. "They're showing off," Jae-Yun said. "Good," Ju replied. "Jin-Ho, start the engine modifications." Jin-Ho typed commands quickly. Their ship began to move strangely, almost wobbling. In the viewing area, Do-Yoon watched with a frown. "Their ship is malfunctioning already," he said to Director Hook. "Is it?" Director Hook replied, watching carefully. On the Accioni ship, the captain looked confused. "They're moving erratically. Prepare to attack when they clear the asteroid field." But Juwoo's ship didn't clear the field. Instead, it dove deeper in, moving in a way that seemed random. "What are they doing?" the Accioni captain demanded. "I can't predict their path," his tactical officer said, sounding worried. Suddenly, Juwoo's ship fired, not at the Accioni ship, but at a large asteroid nearby. The asteroid broke into pieces that flew toward the Accioni ship from multiple directions. "Evasive action," the Accioni captain shouted. But they couldn't evade in time. Their perfect formation had made them predictable. As the Accioni ship dealt with the asteroid fragments, Juwoo's team attacked from 3 different angles at once. Their ship seemed to split into multiple targets on the Accioni sensors. "How are they doing that?" Do-Yoon asked, leaning forward. Director Huck smiled slightly. "They're using something no computer can predict: human unpredictability." The match ended quickly. The Accioni ship, damaged from multiple directions at once, couldn't respond fast enough. For the first time in 3 years, they lost. As Juwoo's team left the simulation chamber, the crowd was silent in shock. Then one person started clapping. Then another. Soon, many were applauding. "This is just the beginning," Juwoo told her team quietly. "Tomorrow will be even harder." The news of Juwoo's team beating the Accioni spread quickly through the space station. Some teams looked at them with new respect, others with worry. The Accioni team simply glared whenever they passed. That evening, as Juwoo was walking back to her room, she noticed a group of Torian officials talking in a quiet hallway. She recognized Do-Yoon among them. They were speaking softly, but Juwoo had learned some Torian language. She stepped into a doorway and listened. "This is unacceptable," one Torian was saying. "The human-led team cannot be allowed to advance further." "The rules prevent us from removing them now," another replied. "Then we change the parameters," Do-Yoon said. "For the next rounds, we add elements that human brains cannot process well. Certain light patterns, sound frequencies, fifth-dimensional movements." Juwoo's heart beat faster. They were planning to cheat by changing the tournament to target human weaknesses. "It must look fair," the first Torian said. "No one can know." They moved away, still talking. Juwoo waited until they were gone, then hurried back to her team's quarters. Jin-Ho and the others were celebrating their victory when she burst in. Their smiles faded when they saw her face. "What's wrong?" Jae-Yun asked. Juwoo told them what she had heard. They're going to change the tournament to make us fail. We should report them, Haenul said, his silver skin flashing with anger. To who? Jinho asked. The tournament judges? Most of them are Taurians too. Juwu shook her head. We won't report it. We'll beat them at their own game. How? Jiayun asked. We'll prepare for their changes before they happen, Juwu said. Jinho, I need you to create a program that can detect changes in the simulation parameters. I can try, he said, already pulling out his computer. Haenul, use your physics knowledge. What fifth-dimensional movements might they add? Haenul nodded. I can predict some possibilities. Jiayun, use your Vortian senses to identify unusual sound or light patterns during the next matches. We need to know what they're planning. We only have until tomorrow morning, Jinho reminded her. Then we don't sleep tonight, Juwu said simply. They worked through the night. Jinho created a small device that could scan the simulation chamber for changes. Haenul wrote complex equations on a board, working out how objects might move in higher dimensions. Jiayun practiced focusing her sensitive Vortian senses to detect patterns others might miss. Juwu studied human strengths. If the Taurians were targeting human weaknesses, she needed to push human strengths even harder. Humans were good at seeing patterns in chaos, at emotional understanding, and at drawing on history. She developed new tactics based on Earth's ancient battles. As morning approached, Commander Dahyun visited them. He looked at their work with concern. You know, he said. Juwu nodded. We heard them planning it. I came to warn you. The next round has been modified with elements that should confuse human perceptions. I tried to object, but was overruled. We're preparing, Juwu told him. Even if you know it's coming, these changes are designed specifically to disrupt human brain function. They've studied human weaknesses for years. Juwu smiled. But they've never studied human strengths properly. We're not just trying to overcome our weaknesses. We're going to use our strengths in ways they've never seen. Commander Dahyun looked at her team, still working hard despite their exhaustion. I believe you might, he said. But be careful. Du-Yun is not just trying to make you lose. He wants to prove humans don't belong in space strategy at all. Then he picked the wrong human to challenge, Juwu said. As the sun rose in the station's artificial day cycle, their plan was ready. They had only slept for a few hours, but adrenaline kept them alert. Remember, Juwu told her team as they walked to the simulation chamber for their semifinal match. They think humans can only think one way. Let's show them how wrong they are. The semifinal round was about to begin. The viewing area was packed with spectators from across the galaxy. On the large screen, they could see both teams preparing in their simulation chambers. To everyone's surprise, Du-Yun himself led the opposing team. This was unusual. Instructors rarely participated in student tournaments. He wants to make sure we lose, Jinho whispered. Juwu nodded. He's afraid we might win despite their tricks. As they entered the simulation chamber, Jiayun touched Juwu's arm. I can already sense it. The light frequencies are different. They've added a subtle flicker that human eyes can't detect but will cause confusion. Good, Juwu said. That means I was right. Haenul, activate our countermeasures. Haenul pressed a button on the small device Jinho had built. It wouldn't stop the changes, but it would help them detect them. The simulation began. Instead of a normal space environment, they found themselves in what looked like a colorful nebula. Lights flashed in patterns that made Juwu's head hurt. Sounds came from all directions. Fifth-dimensional shifts beginning, Haenul reported, looking at his scanner. Objects will appear to move in impossible ways. Juwu looked at her team. They all nodded, ready. Begin Operation Earth History, she ordered. On the other side of the simulation, Du-Yun smiled as he watched Juwu's ship through his view screen. His team of elite Taurian cadets waited for his orders. They're confused by now, he said. The human brain cannot process these stimuli properly. Attack pattern Alpha. His ship moved forward, weapons ready. But something strange happened. Instead of seeing Juwoo's ship trying to evade, they saw multiple copies of it, moving in different directions. "What is this?" Du Yun demanded. "They've split their signal somehow," his tactical officer reported. "I can't tell which is the real ship." Inside her ship, Juwoo was implementing a strategy based on an ancient Earth battle, the Battle of Cannae. She had explained to her team. Hannibal defeated a much larger Roman army by appearing weak in the center while being strong on the flanks. Their ship appeared weak and confused, but this was an illusion created by Jai Yun's communication skills. Meanwhile, He Newell used his knowledge of physics to create false sensor readings. "They're falling for it," Jin Ho said, watching Du Yun's ship approach what they thought was Juwoo's vulnerable ship. "Now," Juwoo ordered. Their ship suddenly accelerated, moving in a way that seemed impossible even with the fifth-dimensional shifts. It was a maneuver they had practiced all night, moving counter to the artificial distortions, using them for greater speed. Du Yun's face showed shock on the view screen. "How are they navigating through this?" "Sir," his officer said with panic, "they've been practicing with these parameters. They expected the changes." Du Yun's eyes widened. "Impossible. No one knew." "You should be more careful where you have secret meetings," Juwoo said over the communication channel. "Humans have good hearing." Du Yun's ship tried to turn, but it was too late. Juwoo's team fired with perfect accuracy, hitting critical systems. Within minutes, the simulation ended with Juwoo's team victorious. The viewing area erupted in chaos. Some cheered, others protested. Director Huck stood up and raised his hands for silence. "An investigation will be conducted into allegations of tournament parameter tampering," he announced. "However, as the team in question won despite any potential disadvantages, they will advance to the finals tomorrow." As Juwoo's team left the simulation chamber, Du Yun blocked their path. "This isn't over," he said, his 4 eyes glaring at them. "The finals will be different." "Yes," Juwoo agreed calmly. "Because this time, everyone will be watching too closely for you to cheat." Du Yun stormed away. Commander Dahyun approached, looking both impressed and concerned. "You did it," he said, "but you've made powerful enemies." "We made those the day we were born human," Jin Ho said. Juwoo looked at her tired but happy team. "We have one more match tomorrow. The hardest one yet." "Who are we facing?" Jai Yun asked. "The Galactic Strategos," Commander Dahyun answered. "Yuri Kang." "The half-human, half-Taurian commander?" He Newell asked. "She's never lost a match." "Neither have we," Juwoo reminded them. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we make history." The day of the final match arrived. The station buzzed with excitement. News of Juwoo's victory over Du Yun had spread across the galaxy. People who had never cared about strategy tournaments were now watching. Juwoo sat alone in a quiet room, studying her opponent. Yuri Kang was famous throughout the galaxy. Half-human, half-Taurian, she had the best qualities of both species. Her human mother had been a famous strategist. Her Taurian father was a high-ranking military commander. Yuri had never lost a match in her life. The door opened, and Commander Dahyun entered. "Are you ready?" he asked. "I think so," Juwoo replied. "Yuri is different from our other opponents. She understands both human and Taurian thinking." "Yes," Dahyun agreed. "But she doesn't understand your team's unique approach. You've created something new, a blend of 4 different species' ways of thinking." Juwoo nodded. "We'll need every advantage we can get." When Juwoo joined her team outside the simulation chamber, they looked nervous but determined. "I studied Yuri's past matches," Jin Ho said. "She always stays 3 moves ahead of her opponents." "Then we'll need to be 4 moves ahead," Juwoo replied with a small smile. Inside the viewing area, the seats were completely full. Director Kuk sat in the front row. Du Yun was notably absent after the scandal of the previous day. Even representatives from Earth had come to watch the human-led team. Yuri waited inside the simulation chamber. She was tall, with light gray skin and 2 eyes instead of 4. Her hair was dark, like a human's. She nodded respectfully to Juwoo's team as they entered. "I've been looking forward to meeting you," Yuri said. "Your tactics are interesting." "Thank you," Juwoo replied. "We admire your record." "May the best strategist win," Yuri said with a slight smile. The simulation began. This time, the environment was a complex star system with 7 planets, dozens of moons, asteroid belts, and strong gravitational fields. The most challenging setting possible. Both ships started on opposite sides of the system. Yuri's ship moved immediately, taking a position that gave her multiple attack options. "She's good," Jae-yun whispered. "I can't predict which way she'll go next." "We don't need to predict her exactly," Juwoo said. "We just need to control the battlefield." Juwoo had spent the night developing what she called the Earthen Gambit. It was a strategy based not on space warfare, but on water, something few species except humans fully understood. "Move us into the gravity well between the 3rd and 4th planets," she ordered. Jinho looked confused. "That will limit our movement options." "Exactly," Juwoo said, "like a boat entering a narrow channel." For the next 20 minutes, both ships maneuvered carefully. Neither fired a shot. In the viewing area, people began to whisper, wondering what was happening. "They're just moving around," someone complained. "No," Director Huck said quietly. "They're fighting for position. This is the highest level of strategy." Yuri was brilliant. Every time Juwoo tried to set up a position, Yuri seemed to see it coming and countered perfectly. It was like playing chess against a master. But Juwoo had expected this. The real plan was still hidden. "She's anticipating all our moves," Hae-Newell said with worry. "Good," Juwoo replied. "Jinho, activate the gravity sensors." Jinho pressed a series of buttons. "Ready." "Now, Jae-yun, send the false communications." Jae-yun began broadcasting signals that made it appear they were planning to attack from the right. Meanwhile, Hae-Newell used the ship's sensors to map the complex gravitational currents of the system. "Like ocean currents," Juwoo explained. "Most space species think in straight lines, but Earth's oceans taught humans to use currents." Yuri's ship moved to counter their apparent attack from the right. That's when Juwoo gave the final order. "Now, full power to engines, then cut them completely." Their ship surged forward, then went dark, drifting into a powerful gravitational current that carried them rapidly toward Yuri's ship from an impossible angle. By the time Yuri realized what was happening, Juwoo's ship had perfect firing position. In the viewing area, people stood up, amazed at what they were seeing. "Check," Juwoo said over the communication channel. Yuri's face appeared on the screen. For a moment, she looked surprised. Then she smiled. "Checkmate," she acknowledged. "I've never seen that maneuver before." The simulation ended. Juwoo's team had won the tournament. 1 month after the tournament, Juwoo stood in Director Cook's office. Through the window, she could see cadets training in the academy yard. Things had changed since her team's victory. "Your win has caused quite a stir across the galaxy," Director Huck said, offering her a seat. "Several galactic powers have asked about recruiting human strategists." "And what did you tell them?" Juwoo asked. "That humans have always been valuable allies. Some were just too proud to notice." Juwoo smiled. On her uniform was a new pin, the tournament champion symbol. Her team had returned to classes as heroes. Even the Torian students treated them with new respect. "Du-Yoon has been removed from his teaching position," Director Huck continued. "The investigation found he had been altering tests for years to prevent humans from advancing. And the other Torian officials who helped him reassigned to distant outposts," Director Huck said with a slight smile. The Torian High Command was embarrassed by the scandal. They've issued a formal apology and are revising their policies. The door opened, and Commander Dahyun entered. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, "but the transport is ready." Juwoo nodded. She was leaving the academy today. Are you sure about this decision? Director Guk asked. You could stay and become an instructor. Many students would benefit from your teaching. Thank you, but I think I can do more out there, Juwoo replied. After the tournament, she had received an offer to join an elite multispecies task force. They handled complicated problems across the galaxy that required creative thinking from different perspectives. It was exactly what she had been training for. Commander Park recommended you personally, Director Huck said, looking at Da-hyun. He says you're the most promising strategist he's seen in 20 years. Juwoo looked at Commander Da-hyun with surprise. You didn't tell me that. I didn't want it to go to your head, he replied with a small smile. Director Huck stood up and walked to a cabinet. He removed an old paper book, a rare item in the digital age. This belonged to the first human graduate of this academy, he said, handing it to Juwoo. The Art of War by Sun Tzu. I think you should have it now. Juwoo took the book carefully. Thank you, sir. As they walked to the transport bay, Commander Da-hyun was quiet. Finally, he spoke. There's something you should know, Juwoo, he said, using her first name for the first time. Your acceptance to the academy wasn't an accident. What do you mean? Earth's Defense Council had a plan. We needed to change how other species saw humans. We needed them to respect our strategic abilities. So I was part of an experiment. Juwoo asked, feeling suddenly uncertain. No, Commander Da-hyun said quickly. You were selected because you had the highest scores we'd ever seen. But we did create the opportunity. The rest was all you. They reached the transport bay. Juwoo's team was waiting to say goodbye. Jin-ho looked sad. Hae-nul and Jae-yun stood nearby. Will we see you again? Jin-ho asked. Of course, Juwoo said. And I've recommended all of you for the next opening on the task force. We're a good team. After saying goodbye, Juwoo boarded the transport. Through the window, she could see the academy growing smaller as they flew away. She thought about everything that had happened, the challenges, the victories, the lessons learned. The transport arrived at a large ship orbiting a nearby moon. When Juwoo stepped out, 5 people were waiting for her. They were all different species, a tall Meridian, 2 Vortians, a Taurian, and to her surprise, Yuri Kang. Welcome to Task Force Horizon, Yuri said, extending her hand. I requested you specifically. You did? Juwoo asked, surprised. Your strategy in our match showed me a new way of thinking, Yuri explained. That's what we need here, people who see things differently. As Juwoo looked at her new team, she realized this was just the beginning. Her victory hadn't just opened doors for her, but for humans throughout the galaxy. Now, when people looked at humans, they would see them through different eyes. And that had been the most important victory of all.